The night was soft, the kind that carries a hum beneath its silence. Rain had just ended, leaving the streets glistening under amber streetlights. Inside a quiet cafe, a man sat by the window, watching drops slide down the glass like time itself trying to remember something. His name was Elias. He wasn't young enough to be naive, nor old enough to stop wondering. Life had taught him logic, but women, they remained an unsolved mystery. She walked in, not dramatically, not with noise, but with presence. That kind of entrance that doesn't ask for attention, it pulls it. Her hair, still slightly damp from the rain, framed her face in loose waves. Her eyes scanned the room, searching but pretending not to. Then, just for a second, they found him. The air changed. He didn't know why, but something ancient stirred. A quiet awareness, older than words. He looked away first, pretending to check his phone, but she had already said something without speaking. Her body did. The way she adjusted the strap of her purse, the pause before sitting down, the half-turn of her shoulder toward him, though there were empty seats elsewhere. It was an invisible conversation, one most men never hear. Elias had spent his life listening to words. He never learned how to listen to silence. But tonight, her silence was speaking louder than anything else. She ordered coffee, her voice soft but steady. Every gesture was deliberate, unhurried. When her fingers brushed her hair aside, it wasn't vanity, it was revelation. A small act, but one that exposed her neck, her vulnerability. He noticed the rhythm. Every time he glanced up, she tucked that same strand again. Repetition is never an accident. The body remembers what the heart refuses to confess. He wondered if she knew what she was doing. Probably not consciously. That's the beauty of real attraction. It's rarely planned. It leaks through cracks of composure. When their eyes met again, neither looked away immediately. Her lips parted, not to speak, just to breathe. He felt a pulse deep inside his chest. He looked down again, not out of fear but respect. Some moments aren't meant to be owned. They're meant to be noticed. He didn't approach her that night. Some connections begin in patience, not pursuit. He left the cafe, the sound of her laughter lingering like a ghost behind him. For days, he couldn't stop thinking about that invisible exchange. What was it about her that spoke louder than language? Why did a simple glance feel like revelation? He started observing people in the streets, couples at bus stops, strangers in restaurants. He noticed the things most men miss. The subtle lean when interest sparks, the slight raise of eyebrows when curiosity ignites, the unconscious mirroring of posture when two energies align. The world wasn't quiet anymore. It was fluent. A week later, fate repeated itself. A gallery opening downtown. He didn't expect to see her there, but there she was, standing near a painting of a storm-tossed sea. Her hair framed her in light. The room buzzed with chatter. Yet she seemed to move in slow motion. When she saw him, her expression softened, that almost smile he'd memorized in the cafe. He walked closer, her pupils dilated slightly. He noticed the way her shoulders straightened, then relaxed. Every signal the body gives is an admission of emotion trying not to be caught. "You again," she said, half teasing. "I was wondering if I'd see you." He smiled. "Seems the universe likes reruns." She laughed, and the sound felt like something warm breaking the night. Her hand brushed his arm lightly as they moved toward the next painting. The contact was brief, innocent on the surface, but her fingers lingered just long enough for his body to register it. Touch is never random. It's the oldest punctuation in the grammar of attraction. They spoke about art, color, chaos, but beneath every word was subtext. Every tilt of her head was a question. Every glance, a whisper. When she tilted her head slightly while listening, exposing the side of her neck, it wasn't just posture, it was permission. He mirrored her unconsciously. His body matched her rhythm. His breathing slowed. Connection, he realized, wasn't something you force. It's something you allow. Later, outside the gallery, the night was cooler. She wrapped her arms around herself, though the breeze was gentle. Without a word, he offered his jacket. Her hesitation lasted half a heartbeat before she took it. When her fingers brushed his, it wasn't electricity. It was recognition. She smiled differently this time. Slower. deeper. They stood under a streetlight, neither rushing to leave. Conversation faded into pauses that said more than words could. He noticed the way her eyes lingered on his mouth when he spoke, how she leaned in slightly when he went quiet. The body is honest in ways the tongue never dares to be. When they said goodnight, there was no exchange of numbers, no promises, just a look that said, "This story isn't over yet." Days turned into weeks, and the universe kept conspiring. Random meetings became routine. Sometimes they spoke for hours, sometimes barely at all. Yet even silence between them felt full. He began to understand her rhythm. When she laughed and touched her collarbone, she was letting her guard down. When her eyes darted away mid-sentence, she was hiding emotion, not boredom. When she leaned closer while listening, it wasn't because she couldn't hear. It was because she wanted to. He started realizing something profound. Women reveal before they confess. Words are always late. Desire speaks first through movement. Once at a park bench at sunset, she sat beside him, her leg crossed toward his, her hand resting close enough that a breath could bridge the space. She didn't look at him, but her voice softened as she spoke about nothing, books, memories, little things. He turned slightly, his knee brushing hers. She didn't move. The body never lies. He wanted to ask her what she was thinking, but something stopped him. Maybe the understanding that sometimes mystery is part of meaning. Maybe the quiet certainty that he didn't need to ask. He already knew. That night, as he drove home, he replayed every gesture, every subtle moment. It felt less like decoding and more like listening to music you'd heard all your life, but never truly heard until now. He remembered a quote he'd once read. "The eyes are the last to lie. When a woman looks at you longer than necessary, it's not judgment, it's curiosity. It's an unspoken test. Can you stay still under her gaze or will you flinch? Confidence isn't dominance, it's calm. And calm attracts the feminine like flame draws breath." Weeks passed. They met again in the cafe where it all began. The air was familiar, heavy with déjà vu. She looked more relaxed now, her posture open. He noticed the way she smiled before he even sat down. "You observe too much," she said playfully. He smiled back, "Only when the view is worth it." Her laughter this time wasn't just amusement, it was acceptance. As they talked, she leaned in closer than before, resting her chin on her hand. The distance between them shrank without effort. When people connect beyond logic, their bodies naturally seek closeness. It's not need, it's gravity. She reached out, brushed something off his shoulder that wasn't there. The simplest gesture, yet the message clear as sunlight. He didn't move, didn't break the moment. Stillness can say more than speech. She withdrew her hand slowly, her fingers trailing through air that now buzzed with tension. They talked until the cafe lights dimmed for closing. When they finally stood, her body turned fully toward his, her toes pointing at him, a sign of full engagement, psychologists might call it. But to him, it was simply truth in motion. Outside, the sky threatened rain again. She didn't bring an umbrella. He didn't either. They walked under the awning in silence until the first drop fell. She looked up at the sky, then at him. "You're quiet," she said softly. "I'm listening," he replied. "To what?" "To everything you're not saying." Her eyes held his for a long moment. Then she smiled, the kind of smile that holds 1,000 confessions and asks none in return. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above the rain. "Maybe you've already heard it then." He wanted to reach for her, but he didn't. The moment didn't need to be touched. It needed to be remembered. She walked away, slow, deliberate, her body still speaking even as distance grew. Every step, every glance over her shoulder, every shift of her hair in the wind carried meaning. Elias stood there, the city lights blurring through the drizzle, realizing that what he'd learned wasn't about her, it was about seeing. When you begin to understand body language, you don't just decode attraction, you decode honesty. You start recognizing comfort, fear, interest, hesitation, and everything in between. He smiled to himself. The world had always been speaking. He just never learned its tongue. That night, he wrote in his journal, "A woman's desire rarely shouts. It whispers in rhythm, in glance, in stillness. The wise man listens with his eyes,